some shout outs. I know Katie and Cole, the founders of Hey Hero, are on here. So good morning to you. Thank you for trusting me with this launch. What an honor. And I think Anthony Trucker is joining us live.
Oh,
he has that
I
background, not there.
My bad. It was all the background, not me for a second. No, I ran to the house real quick and then I came back out. It's Anthony Trucks, but Trucker sounds good too.
Oh my God, did I just call you Trucker?
Yeah, it's okay. I still love you.
I was just having a conversation with my 5-year-old son about a trucker. So it's
There
like
you go.
Freudian slip.
It's an odd name. Most people don't. Not many humans last name Trucks. So it's totally okay. Totally okay.
You need to get brand sponsorship from like Ford, Ford
Trucks. Hey, so
yeah.
I'm starting a show at some point, which I was planning before COVID hit to start filming a show called The Truck Talks, where I would actually travel to different places in a flatbed of a truck, open it up, have a chat with people out in like, I don't know, open areas and just barbecue and talk, like a cool random interview process and just go deep. But then COVID hit. So there will be I'm going to try to get it sponsored, would be the goal by like, Ram and Chevy and all those different companies when the time comes. But wouldn't that be cool?
It's actually the most perfect excuse to do it now because you'll be in the open air,
I should do it. Do it.
For all the people who don't know you, I know you've got hundreds of thousands of followers on all your platforms, but you might be new to someone here on the Hey Hero platform. So
probably, yeah.
In 60 seconds, can you tell us?
In 60 seconds, I can. My name is Anthony Trucks. I'm a former NFL athlete, American Ninja Warrior on NBC, speaker, author, coach, and founder of Identity Shift, where I teach people how to increase or upgrade how they operate to reach their full potential. I focus on identity. And I'm a guy who's done a whole lot of cool, weird stuff. I grew up in foster care, was given away at 3, grew up in an all-white family, played college football, played the NFL, came home, broke my life, got divorced, had 3 kids with my high school sweetheart, got remarried 4 years ago, have an amazing marriage, incredible life, and I now get to go back and teach people how to make an identity shift to reach their full potential in life.
Okay, first of all, do you see all the hearts that are coming across? Because based on what you
I see hearts.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I love you guys too, man.
Story, I feel like there's something that someone can relate to. You're so relatable, and yet you're so unique. I guess I'll start with the NFL thing because I think you have a lot of fans in the sports world. The greatest lesson you've learned being part of the NFL, and go.
I'd say one of the greatest lessons is how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think there's a problem when people hear that with what it truly means. Because being uncomfortable, most people are like, be okay with having discomfort. But that's not what it means. What it means is this. Right. Think about a nice winter, night, and and there's no work to do, and there's, the family's on the couch, and you're in like your nice pajamas and a beautiful blanket, and you got like some warm hot cocoa, watching a movie, like that kind of like, ooh, visceral, fire's on. That kind of, I enjoy that comfort. When you have that level of comfort with things that make you uncomfortable or make most people uncomfortable, then you do them and you have more success at a natural, like kind of organic level. And so it's like to get comfortable, like enjoy discomfort sets you apart. That was a huge thing in football because it was an incredibly discomfort-ridden kind of situation. Every day your job can be taken from you. You're on display, full just you running around in a football field. You can get hurt. Like it's a ton of discomfort. So when you find joy, it's crazy.
What happened, right? You injured yourself, and then your NFL career came to an end, which is such a common story you hear. So I guess, so much of life is not how you fall, but how you get back up. So what is the greatest lesson you've learned not being part of the NFL?
So not being part of it, that you have to be able to use the intangibles you learn and strip things from past experiences and apply them later on. Like, unfortunately, when football ended, my identity got ripped away from me, and I didn't think I was any good. And I tell people as a metaphor of like, we create things in life, and we're the fruit, and this amazing fruit of our life, this relationship, this career, whatever it is. And then maybe you lose your job, or you leave a sport, or you leave the military, you send a kid off to college, or you lose a job, or you break up with somebody. You feel like the fruit fell off the tree and just withered and died. And it's like, man, I feel horrible. And few people grasp the truth is you were never the fruit, but you were always the tree. And when you lean into the fact that like that tree created the fruit, now you can do great things. So football taught me in a weird way, like, dude, you're not football. It was just a piece. That's one piece of fruit. Go back and water the tree and prune the branches and create better, greater fruit in other areas.
So I was a broadcaster, a TV newscaster for a long time, and I recently left. And one thing I remember is, you know, it's an unstable field, right? You always hear colleagues get fired or contracts not renewed, etc. And you quickly learn in the business, this is what you do. Don't make it who you are. Yeah. And so when you don't have that, you're still on stable ground. Otherwise, I think you're always building your house on a muddy hill, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can apply other places.
Your life needs to be a movie. So I hope you're already in talks with people in Hollywood to like get the rights for that.
Not yet, but if you have any people you think of, man, let me know. I'll gladly have a conversation.
Let's give a summary for the newbies who don't know your story. So Anthony was taken out of the foster care at age 3, adopted by an all-white family. And then he was part of the NFL, which, you know, if you follow news at all, has been the center of controversy on just how supportive or not as supportive it can be, or unsupportive, wherever you fall on the line of being supportive of the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement, rather. You are sitting in the junction of all these fires. Yeah. I would love to see and hear your perspective on what it is like to be an African American male, part of the NFL, all white family, and what you're seeing.
A lot of weirdness.
And the tension that has just existed in our country, sadly, for too long.
Yeah, man, it's a very interesting topic, and it's one that I'll gladly talk about, but it's never really been a prominent thing I spoke on. However, I have a really interesting take on it, I guess, right? So I grew up in a family, so I grew up in white America, Black. Like, it was a different dynamic because I wasn't in a diverse area. I have many, many Black moments. 3 days ago, I was in Reno, Nevada on a trip, and some guy in front of a restaurant we were eating that's pretty much attacking my oldest son and me, and you Black and niggers, and this is crazy, right? This still happens. What? Yeah, but it's the world we live in, right? What are you gonna do? I just kind of like, hey man, move along, because I'm still a bigger guy, so I can still kind of. But so I had those moments, but in the NFL it's different, because when you're in the NFL, you're not focused on everything else. It's just, can I keep this job, right? But there's a bigger aspect of what's going on in the world, and dynamically it's very interesting because I'm not a neutral party in this. I have had enough Black moments to realize there's something going on, right? Do I know what it all is? And am I angry at everybody? Like, no, my best friend is a bald white police officer. Like, I have these weird dynamics. And so I try as best I can to stand in the middle and say, look, I can have my experience and be pissed, but it's not going to serve our society or my family if I am just, not listening to the other side. We're not trying to find that middle ground. And I've had a lot of podcasts and conversations about this, but here's what I believe. I believe that Black America and white America both have two different levels of really hard work that has to be done. I don't know what it is on each side. It's just a lot of hard work, we'll call it. And it's kind of like this concept of the Black community is mad at the white community, and the white community has certain things to be pissed at the Black community, and I get both sides of it to an extent. But here's the thing. If we want to live in this amazing united society, like, we have to look at it kind of like the situation of my marriage. My wife and I were high school sweethearts, married, 3 kids, got divorced. And then we got, we had our own partners. I had someone live with me. She had someone she lived with, like a different world. And then we both got separated, and we had 2 different houses. Now, I'm not going to move into her house because some guy lived there. She's not going to live in my house because a woman lived there, right? So we had to leave our respective houses and build a house together, which means I had to compromise. I had to give up certain things, do different work, just different aspects of what had to be done. And I think our society is kind of the same way. Like, we have to leave the house that we're in and kind of reluctantly do it, but to build a better united society on both sides. That work is different, right? There's going to be different acceptances and realizations and truths. But I think that becomes kind of like the figure point, because the Black Lives Matter concept is interesting. A lot of people are like, yeah, all lives matter. I get the logic. Yes, I get it. People are saying, like, obviously Black lives are being taken in higher numbers. I get that. But what if we just lived in a world where to say Black Lives Matter was kind of like, well, of course. Like, yeah, like, like almost like, what were you talking about? Like, I think we're all working towards a world where you don't have to make that statement, because of course, what are you talking about? Black lives matter. All lives do matter, right? Yeah. And I think that's kind of the conversation. I don't know how we get there or what that looks like, but societally, we've got to get to the point where we start having more open discussions and listening on both sides to get the point, to see what they're seeing. So I may have to accept, like, oh, okay, I got to do this on our side. Okay, oh, I got to do this on this side. And then we can kind of come to this level of whatever it looks like years from now, maybe, of having this acceptance of a full society that is unified the way we really all want.
I think that sometimes transformation is uncomfortable.
Oh, it is. Not sometimes, every time.
Things are being revealed, things are becoming transparent.
Yep.
And as uncomfortable as it is, you have to see the long-term effects, right? Where you're like, oh, this is just the uncomfortableness that comes with dismantling.
Yeah.
You know, things have to be revealed for things to actually change.
Yeah, because you can't change, you won't look at it.
Yeah. So that's the perspective I try to take on it. Okay, so for folks who are joining, and I see some of my regular followers on here who probably never heard of the Hey Hero platform. So let me just quickly explain.
Please do, yeah.
Hey Hero, in a nutshell, is it's sort of Cameo meets Masterclass. Cameo, for those of you who don't know, it puts you in direct contact with your favorite celebrities or influencers. And then of course, Masterclass is your favorite,
learning platform where you can hear learning information.
I have such a full spectrum of experts. I'm trying to have I guess experts is a good way to coin that. Everyone from Aaron Sorkin for screenwriting to Natalie Portman for acting, chefs, etc.
Yeah.
Cameo, unfortunately, is just like a personal shout out that evaporates into thin air. So if your mom is like a big fan of Gordon Ramsay, you can get like Gordon Ramsay to say happy birthday, and then boom, it disappears. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Hey Hero, the true value is you're getting one-on-one personal consultation with your favorite influencers. And I'm going to actually put it to use right now because I need to consult you on something.
Let's do it.
So I have been having these profound moments of revelations and things that happen in my life that through the lens of now and all we know and all that we're going through as a nation, I literally am reliving that experience and like taking away something entirely different. Yeah. So before I met my husband, or we started dating, I was dating an African man. Mm-hmm. And he's from Ghana. He moved here when he's 16. He lived in Minnesota. And we were dating a few months, and we ended up going to a rather fancy like restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York. Mm-hmm. And I'm consulting you on this because I wanted to do an Instagram post basically talking about how we all might have these sort of discoveries years later, right? Yeah. So it was like 8 years ago I'm dating this guy, and we go to this restaurant, and there's like 4 diners and all white staff, all white diners. And I'm my boisterous self, and he shushes me. Mm. And he's like, there are other diners here. Mm-hmm. For me, that was the beginning of the end of the relationship. And in my misguided mind, I immediately thought it was because he was Muslim. Mm. And in my stereotype of what Muslim women go through, I was like, oh, this is a Muslim thing. Yeah. I've fortunately now have enough Muslim friends in my life where I know the wives run the show. So I'm like, okay, that was misguided. Yeah. But, now when I look back, I think about, as an African American or an African man, you're burdened with needing to be extra cognizant of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And you carry this like backpack of like, I don't know, fear and burden all the time. And so I think back to that moment, and I realized maybe it wasn't about me, right? Maybe it was him always needing to be like, play it safe. Mm-hmm. Don't be noticed.
In his lane, yeah.
Yeah, don't offend anybody. I'm a very accomplished Black man, and some people find that threatening, especially in an establishment that is very stuffy, very old school Upper East Side. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, I don't know, but I just feel like it's not so clear to me now that this was a man that was just like, shh, woman, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things here. So was 3. There's 3 specific things. So yeah, how do you post about it?
Can I post about it? And 2, is that like, I don't know, is that like, anytime I post anything about anything race tinged, people get so upset. And
everybody will. Yeah, you're gonna have that happen. I was on Success Magazine on their I had some videos done for them, and I had one discussion. It doesn't matter what you say, someone's gonna get mad. There's gonna be someone. So you kind of got to get off the fence and just ride a line and just do your thing, and then people will be happy. They be unhappy. It doesn't matter. I think there's 3 specific areas I would look at in this. One is one I would do is have a conversation. I reach out, as long as your husband's okay with it, reach out, have a conversation, talk about it. Because the unique thing is you're visiting it with a different heart, different head, different everything. So it's good that you're doing that. He might also, and it may be very enlightening for the 2 of you. It may be good for the post to say, I had this feeling. I then followed up with him 8 years later, had a discussion. As long as your husband's okay with it. Second thing I would do is realize this. There are 2 different dynamics of the human that were involved in that. There's the dynamic of him and needing to be in a place of acceptance and not, ruffling feathers. But then my question is, does it need to be like, so to stuff you up, whatever place, if you're being a little bit loud and everything, okay, maybe he was bottled in and he needed to come out and let you pull him out by being boisterous and loud. Like maybe it's something he needed at the time, but he didn't know at the time. Maybe that could be what he realized. Second is the way that he addressed you, I think, is if you are trying to be with somebody, you have to realize that people, like you said, it's the beginning of the end for you. You have to understand how to have a conversation with somebody about something that's hard. And doing something abrasive like that is typically not the way, because people throw up these walls and now you can't get past it. And so he may be doing that still. He may have done that and regretted it in aspects, and other human beings need to learn, like, okay, this happened. I do this with my wife now. This happened. Me being rude is not going to help her learn what I needed to learn or discussion we have to have, because there's an immediate wall of ego and pride and I'm not getting through. Yeah. So what would have been better is like pull you to the side, like, hey, just wanted to have this, this thought. I love how you are. I love your boisterousness, but I think in this environment, I'm a little uncomfortable with you doing that because of, we'll have a discussion, talk about it. Now, you may not take it well, and that's totally cool, but at least I did it in a more respectful way, or at least planted a seed that we can say, hey, we'll talk about it later. Let's just have a good dinner. And then later on in a non-emotional moment, then you have the discussion so you both can grow from it. But I think that it was, not handled well, in my opinion, personally. Like, I don't think that's the right way to talk to anybody. Best is my kids, and they're in a right, hey, shut up, kids. But
I just want to point out to everybody on here, did you see how that consultation worked? I mean, for me, at my business and my line of work, a lot of it is on social media. Mm-hmm. And so I put a lot of weight on what I post. So I consulted Anthony Trucks just now on, do you think this will ring with people? And so then Anthony will charge a set fee for that kind of consultation. And then that's the beauty of this business, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
You can get, I mean, if you go on the Hey Hero platform, there's like chefs, there's stylists, there's the whole gamut. And I love one, I think I recently saw one that was really, really so smart. Someone was trying to get into the food business of becoming a chef or a food stylist. And they reached out to someone who had already sort of established that space and said, how do you take really good pictures of your food without spending a fortune?
Yeah.
And that chef was able to immediately reply and give tangible advice. And so this is what we're talking about. We're trying to just give you info that you can use in your life. And instead of like trying to Google articles on your favorite people, I mean, you can literally just have a real conversation one-on-one with your person.
It's just really, really fun because the work I do, like I coach in specific veins and areas, but something like this is great because they're phenomenal questions that most people are too afraid to ask, or they don't ask, right? They just, or they may ask snippets of it in like a weird, like a missing message, but I don't have time. I don't carve out time. But something like this is great. It's like laser coaching, super quick, hop on, ask a question, get the answer you need, and you have it forever and always to move on from.
Oh my God, we only have like 10 minutes left.
Oh, is that time flies? You're having fun.
Literally evaporating. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. Okay, well, it's all been good stuff, but I'm just trying to think. Sometimes, like when people hear the Hey Hero concept, they need a little more direction in the types of questions that will best utilize their money and time. So what are some of the questions people can ask you as someone who is one of the most popular life coaches and whatnot? Like what can they get most like bang for their buck? What kind of questions?
I call it body bonds in business. That's kind of my weird realm. So body in terms of like I used to play professional football. My degree's in kinesiology, and I owned a gym for a decade that I recently consulted with large organizations, made great money consulting. So the fitness aspect, from a realistic, like, how do I do this? Not like giving you a bunch of
Mm.
weird big words you don't need, but like, Aunt, I want to gain some muscle, want to lose some weight. I'll give it to you straight. Then it's like bonds, like the bonds of our relationships. I've done some weird things in life to have phenomenal friendships, amazing marriage, but there's some unique little aspects of how I actually work with other human beings to create great relationships. And then business. I've been in business since 2008 in about 3-4 different industries. And I've got some really unique insight ideas of how to work in brick and mortar. I had a brick and mortar business and the online world. So
Yeah.
whether someone's like, hey, I want to do a coaching program, or I want to, be able to grow my social media, or I want to open a brick and mortar business, what should I think about? Those are odd things that I happen to have a wealth of knowledge on. And so those are my areas that I cover. Parenting and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Divorce, going through.
Yeah, I've been through that. Yeah.
Okay, so folks, I pinned Anthony Truck's Hey Hero profile on the comments. So that's what you click on if you want to have a personalized consultation with Anthony. And I want to hook people up with some free advice while we have you here for their time. I want to hook them up. A lot of people in despair right now. I mean, so many millions without jobs.
Yeah.
It's easy to say keep a positive perspective, but it's a hard one to grasp.
It is.
Can you give like a really specific detail advice on what is like the first thing they should do if they find themselves in that kind of situation?
100%. So the thing is, we're operating, you operate out of a feeling. We always operate out of feeling. So I feel empowered, do I feel weak, do I feel like it's going to work out? And if I don't feel that, I won't take action, or I won't take it consistently. Right. So in the world right now, like my work is personal development in the realm of identity. Most people want to make a shift to reach their full potential, get a better paying job, fix their marriage, whatever it is. So I want to do something greater. And what I find is a lot of people, they want to proactively do it typically. They reach out, hey, I want to do this. How do we, grow this, build this, become this, do this. And then what you have right now is a very interesting dynamic, which is the world is in a reaction. Reaction is difficult because it's hard. Like, I didn't plan this, but I'm forced to do this. So the problem is when things are forced upon me, I feel helpless. So the motion, the energy to do much, it gets ripped away. So I tell people, simplistic thing, take control of one specific thing that you can do, because that single thing, I don't care if it's a morning routine, catching a workout, like learn to force yourself to take control, because it gives you a feeling of a little bit more hope, a little more power to then progress on to take a bigger action. But if you feel like you're a leaf in the wind at all times, it's a very devastating feeling to live in consistently, because you're waiting for like something to happen. It's kind of like being in a game as an athlete, waiting for someone to make a play or you go make the play.
Yeah. And
for me, it's like I'm always big on let's find a simple thing. I don't know what it is. Find that, even if it's reading for 20 minutes a day, like choose something you can take control over and say, man, I feel good that I got that done. What else can I go do?
Yeah, I love that. Another thing I love that you often coach about is how much we live in a comparative culture.
Oh, we do.
And you and I have, we've grown with social media, and almost at the very undercurrent of social media is people comparing their lives to other people.
Yeah.
And it's so toxic. And I know there are people watching you right now being like, how come I can't be him? He looks young. Why can't I make a living doing my passion? Like, comparing. How do you step away from that?
Yeah, you set your own scale. That's it. I have this conversation all the time with people. There's got to be this perspective of, when I was younger, I would do things to build a business and take actions, and I would feel great about what I accomplished. And then someone in the world or somebody I knew would come out and say, oh, yeah, but you didn't do this. And then it immediately becomes this thing where you sit back and like, man, I kind of feel bad because I thought it was good and it wasn't good. And then what happens is you're comparing yourself to the world's scale, which is ridiculously unsexed and it's fluid. And there's billionaires who want more money. Like, no one's happy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to set my own scale in private, and I'm going to have one or two other people give me insights that stretch that a little bit higher. But then now what happens is I go after that and I feel good about getting that. And then the comparison disappears because I don't care about what you're doing, because I know that if I achieve this, I can feel good about this. And someone can come in and say, oh, but you didn't do da-da-da-da-da. And you can say, okay, let me look at that. Hold on, let me take a look at my scale. You know what? On my scale, this is pretty good. So you can go and have that pain. And I stay here and I feel happy.
What I tell my kids is I have a son and a daughter, and, the sibling rivalry is real. And my son often asks me, he's like, who do you love more, me or Lulu? And I tell him, I said, there's a sun and the moon. Both illuminate in their own ways, and we need both. And they both have their own function.
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah.
Different, beautiful.
So you can't compare the moon to the sun.
No.
And that gives him a little more peace for about 5 minutes, and then he'll ask it again.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the nature of the world we live in. My man Evan Carmichael, he likes my set. This was one of my buddies who told me to do it. But no, I agree. There's a comparison thing, and it really, I feel like in my head, I'm always thinking about, I want the next moments of my life to be great. And if I want the moment's future to be great, I need to have the moment now be great for that. And so I operate, I have a persistent perspective of like, not everybody's as happy as they see online. And that life is great, but as much as that looks great, maybe they have the money and the cars, behind the scenes, they may hate the rest of their life. And so like, I don't want to think about the rest of that. I want my own scale of what makes me feel good. So I don't have to compare myself for joy. If I know what I love, I'm happy.
We also just have a few minutes left. And I also love your message about how in order to embrace the new you, you have to like let the old you go.
Oh yeah, you gotta let it all go. You gotta,
and that is so hard for people. That is so hard for people.
Well, because all you are.
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. What do you say to the people that are like, well, why can't I hang on to my old me and build on that? Like, I need this context. I had this history. I need, you know, that gives me an extra dimension. Why do I need to let that go?
Yeah, well, if you're swimming at the top of the ocean and you're hanging onto a rope that has an anchor, you're not gonna get to the air unless you let go of the rope. It'll just carry you down. So I have a conversation like this all the time. I find that this is actually something that happens consistently for a lot of people because they want to hold on. And here's what it is. In this world, we need acceptance as human beings. I got to know I'm accepted in a group or community or whatever society it is. And what happens is I feel like the things I do keep me in this place of acceptance. And if I let go of that, I don't have anybody that loves me yet. Who's going to like me? Who's going to be around? And so what it is we pretty much get addicted to the struggle, or this is the thing. The evil we know is better than the evil we don't.
Yeah.
Like, I know this evil. I know it's not great. And so I want to stay here. And it's like, at the end of the day, these things you want, you can't be this person to have these things, or you already have those things.
Yeah.
So you got to become somebody different, see things different. It is a scary thing. So it's kind of like you have to let go of it and realize, here's the big thing. That's the fruit. You're not the fruit. You're the tree.
Yeah.
So let go of that. And then you can go over here, plant a new tree. And guess what? You know how you built the first tree. There's certain things you did, but now you get to build this tree with new information, a new fertile ground, because you went somewhere new, learned something different, new group, new environment. So find some opportunity. It's a scary thing. A simple metaphor. The last one too. It's like going into a cave. You know, in that cave there's a monster and treasure, but all you're focused on is the monster all day long. But you've slayed monsters in the past. That treasure is behind the monster. Go in and slay the monster, even if it's going to be hard. But you know that treasure's there. Stop focusing on the monster, focus on the treasure and go after it. Yeah. And it's scary, but when have you died doing this? You're still alive. You've slayed monsters. Like, go do that again, and you'll find the treasure is far greater than what you thought it was going to be.
Christy Mack, 33. She's one of my people. She says, thank you so much for sharing. Great advice. You are so authentic. Yay.
Thank you.
And Evan Carmichael.
You don't know Evan? Oh, get a hold of Evan. That's a bad man right there. He's good.
We just meeting.
Yeah. He is a YouTube guru, humongous heart. Dude's he's the one that's responsible for my new backdrop. He's like, hey, change that up.
Like, oh, that makes sense. I'm really sweating your background hard.
Yeah, right. No, great guy. You definitely got to reach out to that guy. He is probably a phenomenal person to be on the Hey here also. Yeah, get a hold of him for sure.
Look at my background. I basically sat in a peacock chair so I could block out all the toys and mess that's happening behind me. But Evan, let's talk. Let's get myself a little lit logo back here.
Make it happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's 10:59, and right after you, we have another influencer joining us.
And I got a podcast I'm going to now.
Yeah, she's got a wellness fitness space. Her name is Bianca Jade. So I hope everyone stays right here, and we'll get a whole new expert advice on a new arena. But Anthony, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Anthony Trucks. Here's what I want. I want you to launch your pickup truck show and then like pull up right in front of our house, and we'll actually do it in person.
I'm down. I'm down. Count me in.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Ann.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that was fun. Okay, Evan. I want to be the butterfly that leaves my cocoon caterpillar shell. So here's the deal. I'm going to go now let in Bianca. I see her. Okay, Bianca's connecting. Bianca! Okay, I feel like we should have been friends. Like, right? Uh-oh, she froze. Because I lived in
I'm already seeing
for
your
years,
style, and I'm like, I'm
I'm
envious.
I'm like, I just feel like she would be one of the broads I would have rolled with.
Yeah. Hello, it's not too late for that.
You're right. It's not too late for that. Welcome aboard, and thank you for everyone who stayed on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get. So this way, people can get on your Hey Hero platform and find you, and get personalized consultation.
Right.
Boom. There you are. Okay. Yay. Okay.
Ooh, by the way, I have to say hi to Gabby and Ida. I see a lot of people I know on here already.
Oh, Gabby. I love meeting new people that way. You know, when social media is used in the right way, it's pretty fucking awesome, right? It's like,
yeah,
I'm getting introduced to all your amazing people who like probably share my interest in wellness, and just like making the best version of you.
totally. Okay. Everybody, I think everybody I know is like in my like support group, in my business network, in my friends and family. Everyone's just really focused on self-empowerment, and I'm sure that along the way that's rubbed off on me, and that's really like how I arrived at what I do now.
Yeah. No, and I really hope we can start really ballooning this support for women supporting other women, because I just think for a really long time women were pitted against each other, and
still are, because there will always be those kind of women that are kind of like, you know.
Yeah, but it's also society fueling that dialogue of there's not enough seats, right? And there's not enough, and when you operate from a place of scarcity, I think people are mean to each other. I mean, we see that happening right now on a larger scale. So anyway, I support you. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I need to paint a picture of what I saw in your Instagram, and I literally didn't. I held my breath for an entire 2 minutes, and then I watched the video 10 times. It's the acupuncture electrocurrent. Am I saying that right?
Yes. Yeah, it's called electro acu. And that was my second time getting it. I would get it every day if I could, because it's like it does in pretty much under 10 minutes what like an 80 or 90-minute massage would do for your body. Like it literally calms and contains your muscles. So while it's sort of relieving them of tension and stress, it's like, I don't know, somehow just like calming them. It's crazy. Listen, I don't know the full.
Visually paint the picture for people who are just joining. Hi, everybody. In case you don't know what Hey Hero is, it's basically a platform that marries Cameo with Masterclass, and you get a consultation one-on-one with people like Bianca Jade, who's really made a name for herself in the wellness space. So this acuelectro treatment is, she had like pins in her, like, you know, your standard
needles, yeah.
And then those needles are connected to an electric current, and her body literally is convulsing. Like it's literally like there's an inner earthquake happening in different pockets of her back. And you know, it's true what they say, like we store stress and trauma in our bodies, and it gets locked and trapped and stuck there. And this basically like loosens it out, but your body, it's almost like his own intelligence, right? Because it's like, I mean, I can't explain it. It was literally reacting like.
I know, and that's why I wanted to share it, you know, capture it on video and share it on my Insta, because I want more people to be open-minded to it, because a lot of people are scared of things. And here's like, this is kind of like the gist of, you know, my brand and who I am, is to introduce people to things that they might otherwise be intimidated by, like not realize, you know, how cool something is. Or maybe like they feel like it's too expensive, or only celebrities do that, or like I don't even really need that. There's so many, you know, thoughts that go through people's minds when they hear about like new trends and services and treatments and all of that. And so I really tried to kind of like demystify these things and tell people like, this is worth your time, this is worth your money, and hey, it's like a really cool experience that's going to make you feel good.
Will you do me a favor? Can you plug your Instagram? Because people are asking, they want to see this video.
Yes.
Don't leave us. You can check it out later.
So my Instagram is Bianca Jade, and I can even put it in the comments right now. And please like follow me. And then
who gets that amazing name?
I mean, I guess I do. I don't know. I was named after Bianca Jagger. So, I mean, you couldn't ask for a cooler person to be named after, in my opinion. I wish I could be partying up at Studio 54. What?
And your last name is really Jade?
It is now. So my full first name is Bianca Jade. I was named after Bianca Jagger and Jade Jagger. And when I first, this is an interesting story, kind of. When I first started my blog, I just really didn't know how much I would be sharing that would reflect back on my family. And so, I'm getting calls. We lost like interrupting. But so I wanted to kind of remain private, like sort of like a pen name. And I just used my first name, which is Bianca Jade. But over time, I was like, I really like the sound of this as like a full name and really as my identity.
Yeah.
And so I now use it as my last name.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you are on the Hey Hero platform, I would say a question that would be super bang for your buck for you would be like, if I'm starting out to be a blogger, what is the first 3 things I need to take care of? You know what I mean? Because you were at the very frontier of this blogger movement.
I was one of the first fitness bloggers ever.
2008. I think the internet was invented, like a year before? I'm just kidding.
Are you that much of a millennial, girl?
I exaggerate. But 2008 is old school. You're like super OG in the space. So what are the first 3 things you should take care of?
Well, it really depends on if you're going to build a full-scale brand out of your blog. And I feel like these days people are, the trend is people want to make themselves a brand. So if that's the case, I would say, number 1, you've got to be on social media if you're starting a blog. So make sure that you get your name or your blog's name across every platform on social media, even social media platforms that you don't use, because one day you will use them. And that is kind of like a big regret of mine, just because I didn't get my TikTok name because I was like, TikTok's going to be, just for the kiddies. And it was Musical.ly at the beginning. So that's like an example of like where I made my mistake. So I tell people, get your name right away. Even if a platform seems like it's out of your age scope, get it. And then you've got to trademark. Trademarking is so important because and this is something I've talked about on many podcasts before, is that you will run into a legal issue. And if you've got that trademark, just like a patent, you're fine. But if you don't have that trademark, your whole brand could crumble. And I won't get into the details of that because I talk about that a lot, like in other places, but it's like one of the most important things and first things that you should do. Third, I think it's really important to become, a business person, even if you're like, my degree was in art or photography or, I don't know what, right? You have to become, the CEO of your company. So it's really important, and I did this myself, is to really learn about business, even if it's just the basics, because you will learn over time by trial and error how to become a business person. And if you can take some classes, night classes, or just like, maybe one class every like couple of months, that will be extremely helpful. I remember one of the first business classes I took was how to write a business plan. And I learned so much from that. It really like helped me set the foundation and my goals for my business. And listen, everything's changed since that first class. Like that business plan has like no like place in my business now. It's like, it's so different from what I have, evolved into, but, it gets you thinking, and it makes you think ahead and set yourself up for, all these things that could happen.
I just want to give a shout out to one of my OG followers on Instagram, Jones Lindau. She says she's a little too old for TikTok, which I beg to differ, because if you see some of the biggest, I guess, viral sensations, it's like the dad who was dancing with his daughter, or the grandfather that was doing like funky break dancing with his grandson. So it's never too late, friend.
I agree. I mean, what I did, and I'm an observer first. That's like one of my strategies in business, is to like really do your research. And I didn't get on TikTok for a while. I mean, I had my handle and everything, but I took about, I don't know, probably about a year to observe, because I was trying to figure out how I could translate my brand onto this platform that was very youthful and seemed more to have like a silly kind of vibe. So I was like, doesn't my brand really have a place here? So I started following a lot of people that that really spoke to me, and kind of started to devise like a strategy for myself based on the things that I was being inspired by. So that time that I took to observe really helped me sort of figure out like, how am I going to exist on TikTok where I'm not like, in a way that's not like I'm just dancing and like, you know, screaming crazy things, which is a lot of what we see on TikTok. But the whole
which is why
the whole point of being on TikTok is to bring new stuff to TikTok in the same way that we've done it on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest. Just because TikTok might be one thing right now doesn't mean that we can't change it or find ways to create content for it that really, you know, come back and serve us in a way of bringing about more business and awareness for a brand.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go there because this is my probably favorite story about you. And I think it is for me, I feel like this is when I'm like, she's a freaking badass. Like, this is the one. I'm like, this is what I want to consult this woman with, because she's a freaking survivor. So I recently heard that you might be working on a memoir, and it's really not.
Everybody's so obsessed with like this book, which is so funny because I've never gotten this much interest before.
I will tell you, because I did an eye roll. I'm like, oh, another book about how to be better fit. And then I realized like the backstory is that you were an addict and you became sober, and you want to write about that journey of overcoming that struggle. I mean, that makes you so relatable. And it's interesting to me. I mean, Brene Brown always talks about this, right? It's like the things that we feel like make us vulnerable to the outside world makes us look titanium, right? Because it's like you are on the other side, and there's so many people going through it right now. And so talk a little bit about, you know, how, like, I love that you're showing vulnerability. Like, I don't even want to know, like, I don't even know if I should share this from a woman who shared like freezing her egg journey, right? Like you,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, really nothing aside from like keeping my family's, you know, integrity and privacy sacred. There's really nothing that I won't share. So the book that I am, you know, shopping right now is really about something quite, you know, tragic that happened to me in my late 20s. So I wouldn't really say like I was an addict so much, but that could be argued as well, and that's something that does like come up in the book.
Sobriety. It's a story about sobriety.
No, it's not actually. It's not. Sorry, I have to make that super clear. So I went through terrible depression. And I was self-medicating during this phase of my life. And that's why I say it's questionable in terms of like whether I really like, because I didn't identify as an addict. I identified as someone who was struggling with depression to the point of I didn't really want to be alive anymore. And it took me a long time to be able to like actually own that and say that, because it's embarrassing. It was humiliating for my family. And it took a lot of therapy for everyone to, you know, get over, because, you know, here I was, this kid that like did really well in high school, went to an Ivy League school, you know, graduated with honors. Like I did everything so perfectly. And then I was struggling with terrible depression. So my story is really about like overcoming a near fatal overdose and how I hit rock bottom and really had to figure out like, you know, is this going to be my reality? You know, because I talk about how I woke up from the overdose after being treated in one of New York's worst hospitals, literally ever. It was like the most horrifying experience of my life. to wake up and, you know, find out like what I did, who I hurt, and all the changes that were ahead of me. And so it's really, you know, that kind of story. So, I mean, while a lot of people could say, oh yeah, you know, she was an addict because she was self-medicating, I really think that I was lost, you know, and my journey is.
I think your story is more powerful because I think there's more people in that in-between space. Right?
Yeah, and I think, listen, I think a big problem with drugs and with depression is impulsivity. And that is a topic that I broach, is that sometimes you're like, oh my God, my life is horrible. Like, I just want to end it. Or I have all this pain. I just want to take this drug and like feel numb. And those were two ideas that were constantly in my head that I repeated to myself a lot. And, you know, it sounds really dramatic. If you're not depressed, you're like, it's like, that's very extra. But that's the thing, is when you're in a bad place, you are very extra. Like, everything is like, you know, 500 to like 1,000 times, you know, worse than it seems. And so, you know, my story is really about reaching out to people who find themselves in the same, you know, position in life. Because when you do suffer with depression, most likely it's going to happen again. It might be recurring, and it's something that you have to like figure out, like, what are your triggers? How do you live with it? How do you manage it? And how do you overcome it?
Gosh, I love that. Such good advice. Elizabeth says you're her favorite Jutina.
Oh yeah. Hi Elizabeth, I love you.
Jutina, that's amazing. Like, that's
yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Okay. There's a lot of people who are going through some financial strains right now. For the people who are on the opposite end of the Peloton scale, should we say, what is the easiest thing they can do for their wellness that won't cost anything?
Oh, I mean, to me, that's so obvious. It's like, I mean, if you can afford Wi-Fi, just jump on YouTube. There are so many, you know, workouts on there that you can do. And that's what I was doing at the beginning of, you know, quarantine, was like, you know, creating a workout routine, because we couldn't go to classes in New York City. And we were kind of, you know, restrained to being in our apartments for fitness at the beginning, because, you know, they didn't even want people in parks. So I went on YouTube and I created like a fitness routine by just creating, you know, like folders or really like, you know, playlists of workouts. And I had a booty workout. I had like a, you know, abdominal workout, like literally, I mean, it was so much fun to really discover other people's content as a content creator myself, to like really enjoy what other people had put on the internet. And sometimes those videos were like 15 years old, but I was doing that like, you know, 80s, 90s style booty workout, and I really enjoyed it. So that would, I would say, like, if you're looking for a fitness regimen and you don't have money for a membership or classes, that's really the most basic thing I can tell you. But I've been saying this a lot, like, I'm telling everybody, get a dog. Like, if times are tough right now, you're probably working from home, go adopt a dog and start running with that dog or walking with that dog. I mean, not only will that dog bring so much love and comfort to your life, but that's really an excuse to get outside and get in your cardio. Look at you. You're such a good, proud puppy parent. I am. She's right here at my feet right now. I'm like, I think this dog is a better life than most humans. Everybody says that they want to be Frida, which is so funny. Like, she's walked the red carpet. She goes to premieres. She's traveled to like 5 different countries already. She even, just last week, she got a frequent flyer number from American Airlines, which we are so excited about, because now she can accrue miles for all her journeys and adventures. Sincerely, Jason, thanks you for being so relatable. As a journalist, my job is to always ask the questions that's probably on people's minds that they want to ask. If it's not too personal, what did you overdose on? Well, I really want people to read the book. I can't give you the whole, like, all of the info. That is the businesswoman in you. Okay, don't reveal it. All you need to know is that she lived. Okay, she lived, and we need to know how she lived. So that Yeah, okay. But I will say this, because, you know, I listen, I ask questions for a living too, so I get it. It's terrible when someone doesn't answer your question. You know, I was a pill popper, and so, you know, because for me that was like the most, you know, painless way of really numbing my pain and feeling like I wasn't harming myself. I've never been a violent person. You know, a lot of people are cutters, and, you know, that's why I really wanted to talk about depression, is because, you know, from the outside, people just like don't understand it or why anyone would cut themselves or, you know, hurt themselves in any way. But, you know, sometimes, you know, these actions, like we all have a way of justifying them. Like sometimes, you know, they feel good when you're at your lowest. So without going into that too much, you know, I hope I sort of answered your question.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're staying on this topic of pills. Like, you think about like the number one profiting industry is the oil industry, right? Number two is pharmaceutical, which to me blows my mind, right? It's like,
I know there's such a problem.
It's appalling. Meanwhile, the wellness space is really picking up steam, and people, for some reason in our culture, are very stuck on being or. It's like you're either for Eastern medicine or Western medicine. Like you can't be an and. You can't cover both worlds. So I'm curious as to like, as the wellness space gains more notoriety, some people are very weary of it. Like, do you meet that? And what do you sort of?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things I try and share on my social account, people are like, you know, like, what is that? And does it really do anything? And, you know, I like to be, you know, pretty honest about things because there is Goop level fitness. I say Goop, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow's company, Goop level fitness, where it's just like, it's like made for rich people. You know, there's stuff like that where, you know, and I love trying stuff like that like, you know, it's kind of like a luxurious thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it like in the end, you know, getting my vagina steamed is like really, you know, life-changing. I've never done it, but I'm very curious, I'm gonna admit. You know, I don't know if stuff like that is like life-changing, but you know, when there is a topic, you know, that I bring up that I really feel like people could benefit from, I tell them like, this is something that I'm like actively doing. This is something that's novelty that you can try. And I definitely want to differentiate between that because
how do you source all your wellness treatments and things that you find? Because I'm like, wow, she is really cutting edge, like finding stuff that I never even heard of. And I feel like I'm pretty well informed in that space.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, you know, in addition to, you know, sharing things that people have never seen before, because obviously that gets views and like that intrigues you and people want to see it right away, whether or not they're interested in or a candidate for it or not. But I do think like, you know, my followers are cost conscious, and I always keep that in mind. You know, that's probably why like the fee for my Hey Hero thing is like so low. Like I want to give people, you know, access. I want people to feel like, hey, I can afford this. I can get, you know, something I need that's going to enhance my life. That's important to me because if I was like reading, you know, a publication or a website, you know, that's, you know, that it's sort of like Goop, where it really is only talking about really expensive things that might be only available in major cities. Like I might be like, I don't know, I might disengage. And I'm not saying that Goop only does that, but they've gotten, you know,
certain demos. Yeah.
Right. So, and actually like, I love Goop. I was at the premiere of their TV show or their Netflix show.
I kind of feel like you're like, I don't know, your air of like being in the know is so Goop. Like I talk about my IG stories. I'm like, she's like Goop lab on steroids.
Yeah. And I mean like, and that's where I think, you know, knowledge is key, right? But it doesn't always mean that you need to, you know, buy into what people are selling you. So that's just where I'm a little different. You know, I always get real with people and say, hey, okay, like this is something I'm actually using. This is something I just tried for this video.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, wellness isn't just about like doing good for your body. It is about knowledge and just knowing what's out there in the world, you know, culturally. And, you know, and just like Goop did, you know, with their premiere of that, you know, of their show, they were talking about like women and sex and how sex is so different for women than men. And honestly, I went into that being like, oh my gosh, I learned so much. I actually didn't know.
Well, first of all, we've never seen like frontal vagina like on the screen like this.
Right.
And so it was revolutionary for sure. Last but not least, I think so much of your success comes from you not wanting to compromise who you are. Staying authentic, I think, is always visible through the screen. You know, you're a TV host. You also have a website, Misfit. And then, of course, your blog site and your persona on all your platforms. And you, in fact, got your TV career started because Nike discovered you.
Yeah.
I imagine, you know, you monetize by partnering with a lot of brands. Like, do you turn down brands if it's not gelling with your core values, or how does that work?
Yeah, I turn down brands all the time. But I always give, you know, brands, you know, a few minutes to like check out what they're, you know, what they're contacting me about, because like I said, like knowledge is key. So when people contact me and they say, can you take a look at, you know, what we're doing or what we're launching? Like I look at it, and really ultimately what it comes down to is, does it line up with my values? You know, oftentimes there's a lot of stuff that I think would be fun to work on or to partner with, you know, with a brand. But, you know, if it doesn't really serve my followers, then I don't know, what's the point? So, you know,
that's a consultation right there that she could charge a fee for. That's such gold advice. It's like, don't sell out immediately, because if you look at the long road ahead, your truth is all you have. And if you
but
sell
I will say something, like, you know, things change over time. Like I remember a couple years ago, I think I said like I would never work with a beer brand, and then I started drinking beer, like, which is, so it's funny because like someone reminded me that I said that, and I was like, you know what, I like really did say that, but also my brand changed a lot, and so and I changed, and we evolve. Not only do our brands and our companies evolve, but we evolve as people. And so I think that, you know, you can't be so close-minded either to think like, okay, we'll never be about that. I think you just have to write the rules for what they are currently, and then and take it day by day and see what turns, you know, your brand makes, you know, on its path.
Yeah. Okay, so all of you guys on here, do me a favor. I pinned Bianca Jade's Hey Hero link, and she told you she's very, very affordable, and she made that
I'm a cheap date.
And it's just like, yeah. And as a content creator, as Bianca and I, like, we understand the excitement of being part of something at the beginning of it, right? So Hey Hero is like a budding company, and we value when people believe in an idea like this, because I started working with Hey Hero because I'm a true believer. If you can empower people with information they can use to enrich their lives, it's like a win-win, right?
Wait, can I jump in and can I tell you why I was so drawn to Hey Hero?
Yeah.
So there are all these like different, you know, apps and such where you can get shout outs from celebs, right? Which is like awesome. If you watch Real Housewives or something like that, like my sister's addicted, like I'm probably going to send her like a shout out at one point from like her favorite character. But what I loved about Hey Hero is that you can meaningfully connect with, you know, your favorite content creators and ask them questions, especially if you're, you know, if you're in a situation that they've been through before. You know, for example, I froze my eggs 2 years ago, and I kind of went through all the like steps of fertility. And that is probably the most asked question that I get. So it's really cool to now be able to have a platform where I can meaningfully and really in a super detailed way, because it gives me, you know, the video bandwidth and the time to do it. I can answer these questions that I really can't answer on DM and Instagram or by email.
It's always a follow-up